Thank you. Appreciate that. You smell so good. Do you have some of that? What? Do you have some of that smell? Yeah, rub it on. I smell like the air.
One of my teachers once said that, there was a time in the Muslim world where the Mishkat was studied by everyone. The Mashayikh would teach it in the Masajid openly. It was a dars that would occur. And I pray that while we have life, Allah is like audio on. It's on. When anything goes wrong online, sare message should have happened. Like the phone starts bombarding, this is not working, that's not working, this is not working, that's not working. The first person to message me every day is my sister. She's the first one that starts messaging me. Inshallah. One of my dua subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no belittling here. How can anyone belittle it? The instructional that Rasulullah sallallahu وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. Studying Nabi sallallahu help until you service of shaitan and the waswasa of the nafs. A waswasa being from shaitan for X, Y, and Z. Just beautify lust. You will enjoy it. You'll have a blast. It'll be fun. To do something, what does he do? Sciences are subservient to these two forms of revelation. They're all classes of fiqh, tarikh, seerah, all of it. They all serve as khidmah for these two. And the ummah, with all of our diversity, will always be loyal to the Quran and the Hadith, the Quran and the Sunnah. Our task is to connect them to exactly that. they say that if people connect to the Sunnah, many scholars have this worry that if we connect people to the Sunnah and teach them hadith, da'wah, nas directly, the students will step out of their mind and act out and become pseudo scholars. This isn't necessarily true. Specifically as a teacher, if you set the tone right and teach the student in what capacity they can engage and in what capacity they should stop engaging. Just like Quran. آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه من ابتغاء الفتنة إلى آخر الآية. So there are those ayat in the Quran that are for intellectual engagement, and there are those that are for submission. But then when you come to those ayat, you stop. And this is an important exercise because people will either we're training people not to use their intellect at all when it comes to this deen, which is harmful, or we're telling them to utilize their intellect free for all as much as you want. That's harmful. The right way is to guide people on where they can and where they have to stop. This is what the Quran is doing. It's teaching the limits. A part of nurturing is teaching people limits. That you've gone enough, that's perfect. No more. You said your piece, now stop. You shared your opinion, stop right there. There's no need for you to go any forward. That's a part of the tarbiyah of the insan. Not just talk, not stop, but in the middle somewhere, where you figure out where to engage and where to discontinue and submit yourself to someone of higher knowledge, someone who is superior to your thinking and can guide you and take you on that straight path. Khair, today we'll read a chapter of Mishkat al-Musawwir. How much we read on a short? Well, we'll read some of it, inshallah. Maybe read all of this stuff in the chapter. This particular chapter is at the end of Kitab al-Janaz, the chapter on funeral and burial. The author, he titles it Babu Tamanni al-Maut, what they could be. The chapter on desiring death and mention of it, meaning mention death, remembering death. The remembrance of death is very important. It's actually so important that without it, the human being can easily be lost in the ghafla. A part of tarbiyah of a people is to start reminding them very softly and implying the mention of maut. In the material world that we live in, full of corporate engagement and just formal competition, the mention of death disappears because there's so much focus on today and what can be accomplished in this role of yours in life. The truth is that if you go into your work environment and mention death, people say this guy's depressed and morbid. Report him. Maybe he's going to commit suicide. People are very uncomfortable with death. As Muslims, we are taught to be comfortable with it. Death will never be easy. It'll always be hard. But the goal is to prepare yourself for death so when it comes, you're not caught off guard. And more importantly, for what follows death, you will be prepared for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran the importance of visiting the graveyard. Hatta zurtumul, you must be regular. He concludes his Ihya al-Din, the last dhikr. Right? And this man is on a journey on explaining spirituality, and the last brick in the structure, what is it? Dhikr. My teacher and Shaykh Yusuf rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the books he published during his life was Buzurgo ke Islam ke Ahwal, the stories of the righteous and their passings. So important in the book, so valuable. The ulama usually say to people, be careful on reflecting too much on death because it can actually cause depression. It can trigger you. It's hard, it's not easy. Thinking about death, you have to be careful. If you read Ghazali's Ihya, specifically his vivid description of death, I'm being honest with you, it can take you to a dark place. It's one of those chapters of the Ihya that I tell people you're better off either reading it with someone who can really explain it to you and help you understand it, or just hold off. It's a very intense chapter. So our Shaykh, rahimahullah, he took an approach to death that's so optimistic and so joyful and happy for the one that prepares their life for the outcome. Buzurgo ke wisal ki hawat. Now why don't you look at death, but from this angle of how the righteous passed away. On Thursdays, for the students that come over to my house, we read this book every week. We read a few pages of this book. And I kid you not, when I read this book with them, I never want that gathering to end. I just don't want to try. I want to keep going and going, but I realize that 1 hour later, I'm probably doing dhulm on them, so it's time to set them free. But if it was in my control, I would sit there for hours just reading the book again, just beginning to end, because it's so beautiful. And as you're reading those stories of these people in the final moments of their life, all you're thinking is, oh, what's mine going to look like? What's mine going to be? In our last discussion, we read the riwayah of was it Khubayb radiallahu anhu? It was Khubayb radiallahu anhu, right? Where you guys know that he was executed in Tan'im outside of Mukarram. So before they executed him, he said to the people that if you give me permission, I'd like to pray 2 rak'ah. So he prayed 2 rak'ah. And he prayed them brief. And he said that I would ask you to pray 2 more, but then you will think that I'm stalling death. And I'm not afraid of your death. So go ahead and take my life. So the sunnah of praying 2 rak'ah, not sunnah, but the tradition of 2 rak'ah for death, for a person that's about to be executed, starts with him. And then Abu Sufyan, he went to his ear and said to him, would you not prefer that in your place we were killing the Prophet and you would die alone? You would live your luxuries with your family. You think if this guy's about to die, he's just about to hang. He has no idea that one day Abu Sufyan is going to become Muslim until the Prophet is answered. He has no idea. And he says to him that no, I'm very happy where I am, and I never want anything to harm the Prophet. I don't want a throne to even prick him. And then before he passes away, as they're just about to execute him, he makes the word of Allah. He says, Ya Allah, convey my salam to the Prophet. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he receives the salam, he says to him, Wa alaykum salam. And why the Sahaba started crying. Moments of love. And then Abu Sufyan becomes Muslim. He tells the Prophet of Allah, we were at Tan'im when he was being executed. I was the one that was spreading these ears. And I'll tell you what he said. He said that he did not want you to be harmed at all. Imagine how happy Rasulullah must have been. Knowing that this is a state this man dies in, absolute love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When I spoke at the RIS convention this winter, I mentioned Shaykh Yusuf's book in the lecture. And I said to the attendees that Shaykh Yusuf wrote this book, such a beautiful book, but in my heart, there's a chapter missing. And that is a chapter of the author himself. The book needs to be opened again. Someone needs to publish his chapter and then finish it off. Because the last thing Shaykh Yusuf rahimahullah himself did before he passed away was teach a dars al-Bukhari. That was the last gathering of his life. And then he went home the next day when it was time for the gathering. He was going and he had a heart attack. He didn't recover from that. Passed away with that. Wow. What an epic life. What an epic passing. Babu tamanni al-maut wa dhikrihi. Now when it comes to the desiring of death, the ulama have differences of opinion in this regard. On one side, the ulama say it's makruh to desire death. The reason why they say it's makruh and disliked to desire death is because when a person begins to desire death excessively, they give up on living. They stop focusing on the life that they're in, the huquq of the people around them, trying to utilize the life they have for khair and good. Our time in this world is flameless. You're young one day and the next day you're old. It's just a few blinks. And then you're ready to leave the dunya. You know, before I came to the class, my daughter Nadia was in my lap. She said to me, Papa, I love you a lot. She always says that kind of stuff. She's a girl. My boys never said any of this to me. They still don't say it to me. My daughter, she says it all the time. Papa, I love you a lot. So I said, I love you too. She said, Papa, don't worry. I made dua that you're not homeless. Poor selection, limited vocabulary. So I said, what do you mean I'm not homeless? She said, well, when I get old, I'm going to provide for you. So in that moment, I was just thinking that the truth is that that day probably isn't far. That day probably isn't far. You get old, you become senile, the world forgets you, your children are all that's left. That's the reality of life. You pass away, you're lucky if anyone comes to your janazah. And then a few days later, your grave is forgotten, your time is still over. But while you're alive, you have to utilize your life. You have to make something. And the ulama, they say that if a person spends too much time reflecting on death, they will lose the drive they need to be productive in this world. Similarly, some of the ulama also say it's makruh to desire death if it's out of lack of sabr for what Allah has decreed for you. Ibn Abdul writes, ويكره تمني الموت بضرر نزله به للنهي عن ذلك فإن كان لابد فليقول اللهم أحيني ما كانت الحياة خيرا وتوفني ما كانت الوفاة. Ibn Abdul the famous Hanafi jurist, he said that it is disliked for a person to desire death, to make dua for death, due to a calamity that has fallen. Due to some calamity that has come. But if you must, and if you feel that, I'm kind of done with this dunya, that longing is there, right? Then in that case, he said, if a person must, then engage in the prophetic dua. Oh Allah, keep me alive as long as life is good for me. And then give me death when death is, when it's good for me. That's the dua that a person should make. They say regarding Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i that earlier in his life, he gave the fatwa that it wasn't jais and preferred. I shouldn't say jais. It wasn't preferred. He would dislike tamanni al-maut. But as life went on and he became older, it occurred to him that death was the only way to be with the Anbiya, Awliya, and Sahaba. So he began to desire it more and more and publicly made dua. Well, I'm not saying the exact words, but the word similar to this, they say, Al-Mawtu Jisrun Yasr al-Habib ila Habib. That death is a bridge which allows the beloved to reach, the lover to reach their beloved. Yasr al-Habib ila Habib. It allows the lover to reach their beloved. Okay, I'd like to talk more, but I think we should read some hadith. Go ahead.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قال المصنف رحمه الله باب تمني الموت وذكره الفصل الأول. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت إما محسنا فلعله أن يزداد خيرا وإما مسيئا فلعله أن يستعتبه. رواه البخاري.
In this hadith, we see, I'm not going to translate every riwayah, I'll kind of give the gist where appropriate. In this hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam forbids from desiring death. لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت. That a person should not desire death. Qadi Iyad al-Maliki, while commenting on this, he says this nahi is not rather than nahi. It's not a general prohibition of desiring death. It's not that a person can never desire death, because then making dua for death would be inappropriate. And there are examples in the Quran of Anbiya alayhi salam making dua for death. And in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we also see it. And there are riwayat coming ahead in the chapter that show that there is permission to desire death. However, in the scenarios that I mentioned earlier, in those cases, it's not preferred for a person to desire death. I would say when a person is young, they should not make niyyah of death. They should not even make dua for death. Rather, they should make dua that Allah gives them himmah to serve the Ummah. Make this the niyyah of your life, and all the worries of your life will become easier. Otherwise, a person thinks, man, my life is miserable. Forget your life. It's not your life. Your life is to serve the Ummah of Rasulullah. So as long as you're doing that, everything else is just extra time. It's just side. It's just popcorn on the side. That's not the main thing that you're here for. Your main niyyah of living life is to serve Allah and to do khidmah of the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To help someone that's sad, to guide someone that's lost, to help those that are needy, to share a hadith with someone and cheer them up, to read the Quran into someone's life, to connect someone to the deen, to teach someone how to read the Quran. That's what your life is. Everything else is just ألا إن الدنيا ملعونة ملعون ما فيها إلا ذكر الله. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
وعنه رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله عليه وسلم لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت.
So the Prophet of Allah said that if a person does good, don't desire that. If you're doing good in your life, then what happens? You can do more good. فلعله أن يزداد خيرا. And وإما مسيئا فلعله أن يستعجل. Either you're doing good in your life, live a long life, keep doing good, you get more pleasure. And وإما مسيئا, and if you're not doing good, then utilize the life ahead of you to fix your affairs with Allah. Then utilize your affairs to seek your affair with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has the word yastatib on the scale of istif'al. The actual word is itab, which is to be punished. The faida here is, this istif'al has many fawaid. One is obviously طلب الفعل, استنصار, طلب الفعل, طلب النصرة. Another faida of istif'al is salb al-fi'l. Salb al-fi'l, to remove the verb from existence. So utba, itab is punishment, so salb al-itab. And yasta'tiba, so he removes the punishment that awaits him with the life that remains. How does a person remove the punishment while they're still alive? By doing tawbah and istighfar. So that's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. Yes, go ahead.
وعنه رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت ولا يدعو به من قبل أن يأتيه إنه إذا مات انقطع وإنه لا يزيد المؤمن عمره إلا خير. رواه مسلم.
Yes. إنه لا يزيد المؤمن عمره إلا خير. That for a believer, the longer they live, it only increases them in better actions. If you live one day extra, a believer, inshallah, will do one sajda extra. They'll do more tilawah. You have an opportunity to be a positive influence in someone's life. So you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep you alive as long as khayr is good for you. And while you're alive, you make it a means of khayr and increasing in your good deeds. So when you stand in front of Allah on the day of judgment, there is something to see there. The pleasure of Allah. Yes.
وعن أنس رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يتمنين أحدكم الموت من ضر أصابه فإن كان لا بد.
So I told you guys earlier that a person should not desire death due to a calamity that's befallen. That if life is tough, you have back pain, leg pain, knee pain, you're struggling with a sibling, parent, work, school, health, whatever it is, don't let that be the reason that you make dua for death. Rather, you ask Allah for help and guidance. There's a dua that I read of Umar radiallahu anhu, that he made dua to Allah, Ya Allah, don't lessen that burden, rather grant me stronger shoulders to carry you on. SubhanAllah. Look at these people and their vision. And he's a Khalifa, old at this age. I mean, not old like you and I are old, but still, he compared himself older in age, right? And SubhanAllah, he just wants to do more khidmah of the deen. And Allah, give me the ability to carry it. We need people in the Ummah who can dream. We need some of those people. And then we need those people to go and prepare themselves to fulfill their dreams. We have people who dream, but they don't prepare themselves to execute those dreams. Then on the other hand, we have people that have prepared themselves with a good foundation, a lot of ilm, but they don't know how to dream. We need people who can do both. People who have ilm and have really committed themselves to ilm, and then those people need to be loaded with ambition. And watch what they do. They'll change the world. Because once Allah is with you, no one on the road can stop you. This is a train that's about to mow everything down. It's going to tear everything down. I was in Seattle this last weekend, and Mufti Abdul from Fattah Institute, we were together, so we were in the car. Someone said to him, that Shaykh, you're doing too many things, you need to slow down. So I was sitting in the front seat, I turned back and I said, don't listen to this guy. Don't slow down, you keep going. So these guys keep saying you're going to burn out, you're going to burn out. These guys are 87 gas, you're 93. Right? You keep doing what you're doing. You go same speed, just keep going. Don't listen to any of these people. You just keep going. We don't have too many people like this who have that kind of fuel that just keep going forward. Everyone else, we take one step forward and then 10 steps. I'd study for half an hour, I need to sleep 2 hours. Almost that. We don't need that. We need people who are going to mudara for 10 hours and then sleep for a little bit. Then get up and continue that. We need a lot more khidr. The ummah is in a dire situation. It's in a dire situation. لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت من ضر أصابه فإن كان لابد فليقل اللهم أحيني ما كانت الحياة خيرا. This basically, we're not going to show this ibadah. He took this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَتَوَفَّنِي إِذَا كَانَتْ الْوَفَاةُ خَيْرًا. I quoted that Ibn Abdul's statement earlier. In reality, he just took this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and put it into his text. Yes, go ahead.
وعن عبادة بن الصامت رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحب لقاء الله أحب الله لقاءه ومن كره لقاء الله كره الله لقاءه. This is one of my favorite riwayat, definitely among my top 10. Whoever loves to meet Allah, Allah also loves to meet him. And whoever dislikes meeting Allah, Allah has no interest in meeting that person either. How does a person know if they love to meet Allah? Their a'mal will tell you. Whether they wake up for Tahajjud Salah or not will tell you. Don't live wishfully. وَالْعَاجِزُ مَنْ أَتْبَعَ نَفْسَهُ هَوَاهَا وَكَانَ الْكَيِّسُ مَنْ دَانَ نَفْسَهُ وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. Intelligent person prepares for death. That's the sign that they want to be with Allah. That a person yearns for it, makes dua, Allah, Ya Allah, I desire your companionship. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's last statement in the dunya was what? And even that word, to refer to Allah, he used the word that he used to invoke Allah specifically in sajda. It was a sajda call. All those sujood of his entire life came together in the moment when he passed away. All that subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who love to meet Allah and gives us His love. He gives us His muhabba. He allows us to love those deeds that are pleasing to Him, that He gives us a perspective to live life that is serving to Him and nothing else. Forget everything. Ya Allah, I just want to live in your obedience, in your service. So wherever you place me, Ya Allah, labbaik wa sa'dik, like a jundi, like a soldier. Just saying to Allah, wherever you place me, send me there, I will do my best. I will worship you and do my best and serve the deen there. Yes. قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها وبعض أزواجه إنا لنكره الموت قال ليس ذلك.
Yeah, so then the wife of the Nabi Sallallahu, she said that who likes death? And it's painful. It's hard. It's not easy. If you think getting your hand burned at the iron is tough when you're ironing your clothes, this is like a whole different deal. So Nabi Sallallahu says, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about liking or disliking that. He's talking about the spiritual state of a person. ولكن المؤمن إذا حضره الموت بشر برضوان الله وكراماته فليس شيئا أحب إليه مما أمل. When a person is dying and he's struggling with death, the malaika come with glad tidings. In that moment, as that person is struggling to distract him from the pain, they say, hey buddy, don't worry. This is where you're going to go to Jannah. That person is amazed in the beauty. Bushira ridwanillah wa karamati. And they say, we want you to know, it's hanging there. As the pain is increasing, they say, Allah's happy with you. So then everything dissipates. The Urdu poet says, Itni wabasta hai taskeen tere naam ke saath. Neend kaatun par bhi aa jati hai aaraam ke saath. That there's such peace attached to your name that I can lie on a bed of thorns and sleep in peace. Because of the beauty and joy your name brings to you. So until that person that Allah has given you his happiness, all the pain just gone, it's gone. It's like a parent saying to their child that when I see you eat, I don't feel the pain of hunger anymore. I don't feel it because I'm seeing you eat. I mean, that's what good news does. Go ahead.
فأحب لقاء الله وأحب الله لقاءه.
So when he hears this good news, he's like, man, bring death on. He's excited. فأحب الله لقاءه. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is excited for him too. وإن الكافر إذا حذر what does that mean? When death approaches. بشر بعذاب الله, the opposite happens. Allah's punishment is announced to him. That hey, crook, you see how things are tough right now? It's about to get tougher for you. All that disobedience, all that ghibah, all the lying, all the salah you missed, all the foul things you said about Allah and the deed, and all your dismissal towards the deed, and all of your negligence to Sharia, all of it. Oh, you're not going to get away with one bit of it. The people in the dunya let you off. We, the servants of Allah, will hold accountable hereafter. بشر بعذاب وعقوبته فليس شيء أكرم عليه مما أمامه فكره لقاء الله فكره الله. Yes. There's nothing ahead of him. There's nothing more disturbing to him than what's ahead. I read that wrong. Yes, go ahead.
وفي رواية عائشة رضي الله عنها والموت قبل لقاء الله. وعن أبي قتادة رضي الله عنه أنه كان يحدث أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مر عليه بجنازة فقال
مر عليه بجنازة. People took a janazah refers to the deceased. They took the deceased in front of Rasulullah. The body was carried in front of him. So as he passed by, قال مستريح أو مستراح منه. The Prophet ﷺ said, مستريح أو مستراح منه. مستريح could be translated as relieved. Just one word, literally. مستريح, how do you translate that? Relieved. مستراح من, relieved of. Imagine you're being a Sahaba, you're sitting there, and a guy's body passes by, and you hear the Prophet of Allah saying, relieved or relieved of? Little secret, right? It's a Muslim ibadah. What does this mean? Relieved of? Yes, go ahead.
فقال يا رسول الله من أستريح والمستراح منه فقال العبد المؤمن يستريح من نصب الدنيا وذاهب إلى رحمة الله. When a servant of Allah passes away, he is relieved of all the difficulties of the dunya. When that person is passing away, he's thinking, no more insurance payments. I'm not going to say that. When I go to Jannah, there's no insurance there. For health, for car, for house, for rent, nothing, no more insurance. من نصب الدنيا وأذاها. When I was in, did I say I was in Seattle this last week? No, I wasn't in Seattle. I was in Minnesota. So when I was in Minnesota, God, there's so much snow there. Allah knows why people live there. So much snow. I kid you not, I was saying to Shaykh Muhammad Masman, he was sitting behind me in the car. And I said to him, there was Shaykh Muhammad Masman? So they had this bus stop. You know they have bus stops on the side of the road where people stand if it's raining, like a fiberglass little thing? The snow they pushed to the side of the road was taller than that. The pile of snow was, what did I say? Was above that. And I said to him, man, these people are wacko, they're crazy. Why would they live here? He agrees. He said, yeah, I agree with you.
Muhammad that's talking. Today Muhammad's sleeping. Okay. من نصب الدنيا وأذاها. No more shoveling no snow. من نصب الدنيا. Yes. وأذاها إلى رحمة الله. والعبد الفاجر يستريح منه العباد والبلاد والشجر والدواب. Oh, what a prayer. And as for a disobedient servant of Allah, relieved of, who is relieved of that person? Other human beings. The earth that Allah created that He walked on is relieved because they're so frustrated with that human being. Every time he steps on the earth, they say, Ya Allah, let me swallow this moron. So, يَسْتَرِيحُ مِنْهُ الْبِلَادِ. That they're relieved. That person's fine. وَالشَّجَرُ وَالدَّوَابِ. Even the trees and the animals. How many riwayat left of the puzzle? Two more. Let's do two more things. Go ahead.
وعن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنه قال أخذ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بمنكبه فقال كن.
Yeah, it's both. In one spot, it's mankibayna, تشدد. In another spot, what is it? With the sukun, mankibi, which is just one shoulder versus two shoulders. That Rasulullah held him on one shoulder, and that's the following statement. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu saying, "O bi mankibayna," or Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam held mankibayna. Or Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam held me like both the shoulders and then said the following statement, which is, we talked about Rasul al-Mu'allim, right? And I said to you that Shaykh Fattah had a chapter dedicated to this, that one of the teaching methodologies of Rasulullah when trying to convey a strong message was to hold the person, hold physically, and then say something. What did he say?
كن في الدنيا كأنك غريب أو عابر السبيل.
Be in this world like a traveler or a wayfarer just passing by. A stranger, غريب stranger. كأنك غريب. And this O is tarqi. O عابر السبيل. Like how they call عابر السبيل. غريب is someone that's in a place, but they're not from there. You guys understand this? Like for example, Yusuf is غريب to Dallas. What that means is, listen, she's originally from the DMV area. She's from Virginia. But she's here right now, not from here. Does that make sense? But she still has an apartment here. She has a very small car here. She has... Sorry, that's inappropriate. But it's very true. So she has a lot of possessions here in Dallas. But does that mean she's from here? Yes or no? Then the O is ala sabil al-taraqi. But rather, if the Prophet said, being in this world like a stranger, not someone from, or even one step ahead. One step ahead is abid al-sabil. You know what abid al-sabil is? If, for example, the gharib is someone from outside of town staying here, the abid al-sabil is like someone who stops at a gas station. His commitment to that location is even less. Oh, obviously. Try to be like that. Figures. Moving along. Don't get connected to the video.
وكان ابن عمر رضي الله عنه يقول إذا أمسيت فلا تنتظر الصباح وإذا أصبحت فلا تنتظر المساء.
So the statement that Rasulullah had such a big impact that Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, basically he would tell his students that when you enter into the morning, don't wait for it. But when you enter into the evening, don't even wait for it. When you enter into the evening, don't even wait for it. وإذا أصبحت فلا تنتظر المساء. And when you wake up in the morning, don't wait for evening. Any day could be your last. وخذ من صحتك لمرضك ومن حياتك لموتك. Prepare. Yes, go ahead.
وعن جابر رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل موته بثلاثة أيام يقول. This is a
powerful riwayah. This is the last one we're going to read today, I believe. Yeah. In this particular riwayah, the reason why I say this riwayah is very powerful and important is because it gives us an insight to what the Prophet was thinking just days before he passed away. Trying to know what a person is thinking in those moments is very important. It gives you an idea, some path of what you should be doing if you find yourself in the last moments of your life. What do? What am I supposed to be thinking? So Jabir says, I heard Rasulullah saying 3 days before he passed away, this is the end of it. What did he say?
لا يموتن أحدكم إلا وهو يحسن الظن بالله.
لا يموتن أحدكم إلا وهو يحسن ظنه. One of you should surely not die until he has good thought of Allah. Don't let death come to you until you have made peace with your Allah. Until you've built a good relationship with Allah. Don't let death come to you. The sad reality is that most people are distant from Allah. And I'm not talking about distant because of lack of ibadah. Due to shaitan feeding them a false narrative, they attribute the difficulties that have occurred in life as a punishment from Allah again and again, and as a result of that, they feel a sense of betrayal from their Lord. You can't die like this. What face are you going to show Allah hereafter? You have to fix your mind, clear your thoughts. Get this shaitani waswas out, get the nafs out. Your Lord will never betray you, and neither will He. His love for you is far greater than you will ever know. The Catholic will say otherwise, don't listen to them. There are ways to space it. You listen to Allah. Listen to your Quran. Everything will end. This will all end. All the rivalries of this world will end. All the pain will end. We believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and know that a day will come that we will have to stand in front of Allah. Shaitan has fed you a narrative of life. You need to rewrite that whole story before you pass away. You have to rewrite it all. And that story should be that my Allah has loved me more than I will ever know in this dunya. So all the negligence I had towards Allah, and Allah forgive me for not dedicating my life to you, for questioning you, for even thinking of you in a way that is inappropriate, for ever doubting you. Do the kind of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Commit to His love. Die in this state and prepare for the Nuzulan min Ghafurir Rahim. Prepare for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's preparations for you. And if you think the people in this dunya know how to throw a party, you wait for Rabbul Alameen. You just wait. And the party will be for you. For the Ashiqeen, for the Muhibbeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to prepare. With that, we'll conclude. If we're ready to start class next week, we'll start the subject. If we don't, we'll just do 1 or 2 more chapters and we'll start slowly in the weeks ahead. There's 5 on this too. And when we're ready for the next class, we'll start that. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد. السلام عليكم. No. What else is going on, people? Anything new? What are the Ahmad? Go on, tell us about California. She's going to brag about the weather. 100% she is. It was flooding? Good. Stop us. Sorry. Really? It's flooding there? What happened? Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, but it was like really bad for the roads. So it was like a lot of clothes and people got out.
What part of California is this?
Like Bay.
The Bay Area. Man, they've had a drought for so long. Such a blessing that it rained. Hopefully, long hawalina wa la alayna. I'll make it for them, not against them. I'm so happy that it rained there. I remember I had gone before COVID, and there was some silly marker that hadn't rained in months or something. Was that recently too?
Oh, it's all green.
It's all green? Oh, did you guys see a picture of Makkah? Yeah. You see it? Someone posted a picture of Makkah being all green. It's shocking. Apparently there was a lot of rain there, and because of that there was a whole valley of just lush greenery. You see it? It's beautiful. What else is there? Anything else happening? Abdul, what's new? What did he say? Okay, you guys go home and consider this. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Gee. جزاك الله خير. تفضل.